What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. We're on quite a bit later than we usually are tonight, but life gets in the way some days. But we still wanted to get an episode out. Better to have one out later than not to have one at all. Korea, how are you?
I'm good. As you said, life happens. It's like shit gets in the way. Excuse my French, but we're still here. We're dedicated to this podcast. As content creators ourselves, we're just trying to, expand our market. So we're just trying our hardest out here. But I'm doing all right. Watching this basketball game. It's kind of a crazy time right now. Obviously, May is big playoff month for the NBA. We're heading now into the second month of MLB. Big stuff happening.
Yep, no doubt. So we focused on the NFL draft on Monday, and today will be all about the NBA playoffs. We'll get right into it with the Heat and Sixers. And the Heat took a commanding 2-0 lead earlier today on Wednesday. It's Wednesday, May 4th. It was announced, I want to say, a day or two before Game 1 that Joel Embiid suffered an orbital fracture and a mild concussion in the final game against Toronto in round 1. And so he was already ruled out for these first two games, and he was in question for games 3 and 4 as well. But the Heat immediately jumped up to like 8-point favorites in each of these first two games once that Embiid news was announced. And as most would expect, the Heat kind of controlled. I mean, I wouldn't say they controlled because the Sixers in the first half of both games were in it, and then the Heat kind of just took over in the second half. That you kind of saw, with Philly having to play guys like Paul Reed and DeAndre Jordan, Bam Adebayo were kind of controlled down low, and then you combine that with Tyler Hero off the bench. Congrats to him winning Sixth Man of the Year, and then Jimmy Butler, and the Heat are just too deep, much better bench, better starters, especially with Embiid hurt. Korea, I know you had the Sixers before the playoffs beating the Miami. Obviously, you didn't know Embiid was going to be hurt and all that. Do you think it's going to be a sweep, or do you think Philly can take one at home?
Look, I don't think Philly has a choice. I think Philly obviously needs to take one at home, probably game 3, to salvage this series. I mean, look, we saw game 1, and game 1, it looked like the Sixers had a decent chance at, making it a competitive game. And then, that second half just got away from them, bad shooting. And then obviously Tyler Hero, who is now Sixth Man of the Year, congrats to him. He definitely deserves it. But, I mean, yeah, when you see this team, they're so deep and they know how to play basketball well. Obviously, Eric Spoelstra, defensive-minded coach, the number 1 seed in the East for a reason. And then you look at this Sixers team. Obviously, no Embiid. That's been the main point here. But where the hell is James Harden? This is the thing. This is the thing I absolutely hate the most about James Harden. He can show up in the regular season any day, but as soon as the playoffs start, especially in the second round, this dude disappears. He can't shoot the ball. He's barely shooting the ball well right now. James Harden, where the hell are you? Okay, like, do we got to put like some kind of search for you, a missing persons award? Like, no, I'm serious. Like, you see, but like James Harden is just disappearing, and like, mind you, like, it doesn't seem like remember that trade, that Ben Simmons James Harden trade. A lot of people were thinking, oh, James Harden, the Sixers won this trade automatically because Ben Simmons decided to go to Cancun and never play in basketball this season. But now Embiid, was there really a winner in this trade? I don't really think so. I mean, the way Embiid is playing right now is absolutely horrible. He just can't find the shot, and this is the.
You mean Harden?
Yeah, James Harden. Yeah, James Harden cannot find this shot. And yes, Maxey is trying, but obviously he's a rookie, and you don't have high expectations.
He's second year, or is he a rookie?
I thought he was a rookie.
I don't know. Either way, he's young.
Yeah, you don't expect from someone that young to really step up, but he has stepped up in a few games, but they need him to step up. James Harden is that veteran now that Embiid is hopefully may come back for game 3. A lot of people said with that concussion, they said he may return game 3, which obviously would be definitely an advantage for them since it's in Philly, obviously. So, the Sixers, I think they're not they kind of, obviously, I had them winning in, I think, 7 in this series, but I think that's going to switch. I don't think Even with Joel Embiid coming back, the way this Miami team plays, they're not even Kyle Lowry's not even playing right now, and like that's one obviously a key role player for them. So I think the Heat have this wrapped up in about 6. I honestly think they'd probably be about 5 or 6 because obviously Embiid coming back will be huge, but obviously we still have to deal with his thumb that he's not going to get surgery on until after the offseason. So there's still like he can't shoot the ball 100%. And then James Harden not even shooting the ball accurately, looking like me out there, just missing everything. And then what? Like you don't expect much from Maxey, but you at least like expect a little contribution, considering in the first round, that first game, he was electric. What do you have? 30-something points in that game. He was leading that team against the Raptors in that first game in the first round. And now you see the Sixers team just deflate because Joel Embiid's gone on offense. So obviously, it shows you how Embiid is into this team. I think he should win MVP, but it shows you how important Embiid is to this team. And I'm not saying Jokic isn't important to Denver because he is Denver. He is the Denver Nuggets. And when it comes to playoff time right now, you need all your stars healthy. And Embiid on the sidelines, he's only helping the Heat right now. So if the Heat, obviously, they just got to keep playing basketball the way they do. Just, have the deep shooters come off the bench like Robinson and Hero. You have that defensive-minded front, Butler, Kyle Lowry, all those guys play great basketball right now. And I think the Heat are just trending in the right direction. A lot of people, obviously overlook them because, of the star power, like the Brooklyn Nets who got swept. But you have the Boston Celtics, you have the Milwaukee Bucks, you have the Raptors who were contenders before, Scotty Barnes got injured, you have the Sixers. And then everyone just forgot about the Heat. So right now, Heat are up 2-0 after their win tonight. That offense just looks so that 76ers offense just looks so deflated without Embiid. And I think it's just going to cost them. I think the Heat may finish this in 6 if Embiid is playing in Game 3. I really do think the Heat will end this. I just don't think I don't think the Sixers can come back. But the way that they have been playing, throughout like the first half, it gives them this false sense that they actually can compete with this team without Embiid. So we'll see what happens with Embiid. Obviously, he's like the big X factor in this series, not being fully healthy right now, but we'll see what Game 3 holds. But for now, it's looking like the Heat are just going to walk away with this series.
Yeah, I was going to say Heat in 5, maybe even a sweep if Embiid, obviously it's pending Embiid's health. I believe it was in 2018 he played with the same orbital fracture with the mask, but when you pair that with the concussion, you just can't. You can't play through that, and then you pair all of that with the finger injury, I think it was the thumb issue, and then he's just so many injuries right now that he can only play through so much. So we'll see if he's back Game 3. But just kind of watching Philly's offense, you can see, how different they are playing through Embiid versus playing without him. Obviously, Harden has a history of sometimes not showing up in the playoffs, but at the same time, there's so much more pressure on him, and Beller's one of the best defenders in the game. So you have to give him. I give him a little bit of slack, for that, just because of how big of a factor Embiid is missing that factor. But you look at you mentioned their defense, one of the most efficient defenses in the league this past season, paired with even you look at like guys who they drafted late first round, second round, who play pivotal roles, with like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and then now you have a healthy Oladipo coming up the bench. So it's just like the depth, and you mentioned Larry's not playing in it. They're not missing a beat even without him playing because of all the depth that they have. So that's definitely really showing out versus Philly missing Embiid. Obviously, he's their best player, one of the best players in the league, so you can't replace him. But even when he was healthy, the Phillies bench wasn't very good. They didn't get much production, and we're kind of seeing that in full even more, now. Whereas Miami's dealt with injuries to kind of Butler, Lowry throughout the playoffs, and they've, have had guys step up off the bench in their place. So, it wouldn't shock me if this is a sweep if Embiid's not fully healthy. If he returns Game 3, then I think Philly could take 1 at home and make it 5. But I don't see how they win. I don't think they're going to win 2 games in the series. But we've seen crazier things happen, obviously, so we'll see how it plays out. So now we'll go on to the other East second-round matchup between Boston and Milwaukee. The first 2 games were complete polar opposites. Milwaukee dominated Game 1, and then Boston comes out firing in front of their home crowd Game 2 and dominates the entire game. We both had Milwaukee, I believe, moving on in this series. Korea, after the first two games, are you still confident in Milwaukee, or what's kind of your updated stance on this series?
Yeah, I think this is going to be Milwaukee's test. Obviously, last round they made it out without Chris Middleton. This round, it's definitely going to be a little tricky because Boston does have those two shooters in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum who can drop 30 on any given night. And the way Boston was playing in game two, it looked like they were just unstoppable on offense. And the way that Giannis was just being absolutely toyed with on the offense. Al Horford really, doing a great job of making him a lot rattled. Antetokounmpo, he did not look good against them on game two, obviously, but a lot of that is due to Al Horford's defense. He's been one of their key pivotal players on the defense side of the ball, being able to withstand Giannis's power inside the paint. I'm not too concerned. I knew this was probably going to be a split, but game one obviously was a different story than game two. We saw what happened in game two. It was just absolute. The Jaylen Brown shows throughout the first half. He dropped 25, and then he's cooled off in the second half. But when it mattered, he made his shots that counted. So you can't fault him there. But yeah, I mean the Bucks definitely have a lot more work than they have in the first round. Now, I mean they're going home though for games 3 and 4 right now. So definitely comfortability playing back in the Fizzard form in Milwaukee for those guys now in games 3 and 4. And, obviously the Celtics do have one of the more, defensive-minded teams with, Marcus Smart and Robert Williams playing great. Al Horford's playing great right now. But obviously a different atmosphere in Milwaukee. Defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not too nervous, but obviously – I think we're just going to need more of the Giannis Antetokounmpo show. Just his dominance alone pretty much is the reason why they won the game one. He had that great scoring game, but then game two, it was just, he was just getting flustered everywhere. So you mentioned the polar opposites. Game three will definitely be intriguing to see how Boston can use that momentum to carry them into game three, or how the Milwaukee Bucks finally bounce back in that game three, which I believe is tomorrow. So, Celtics right now. Of course, yes. Oh God. But, right now, Celtics, they have the momentum. If Jason Tatum is going to be dropping about 35 points, I would definitely be scared if I'm the Bucks right now. Missing that key shooter. I mean, you had Grayson. We need that Grayson. If you're the Bucks right now, you need that Grayson Allen from round one, who was dropping like 52 points in 2 games against the Chicago Bulls. You need that for games 3 and 4 for the Bucks to have a lot more comfortability in this series. I knew this series was going to be a big sweat for the Bucks. This is definitely going to be their biggest road if they want to get back to the NBA Finals. But for now, it's even a 1-1. Definitely polar opposites. I think Game 3 will really show who probably will win this series.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Game 1, both Tatum of Jason and Brown of Jaylen both struggled mightily from the field. They didn't even crack 90 points in the game. It was 101-89. And then, in the Game 2, they just couldn't have missed. Jaylen Brown, I think, you mentioned 25 in the first half. I think he had like 20 in the first quarter or something like that. Credit to Grant Williams. His defense is also really good on Acumpo and all that. I think no matter how you look at it, I think Milwaukee taking one of the two on the road, the first two, is still a win for them, especially in their current position. But they're definitely going to need, like Holiday, I think, had 25 in the first game. They're going to need him to step up the rest of the series. And you mentioned Grayson Allen had some big games to close the last series, so definitely need guys who don't normally step up. I mean, Holiday steps up, but Grayson Allen stepped up when Middleton got hurt last series. So they're going to need him to really step up off the bench. Giannis was really, especially the first half, shut down in Game 2. The second half, he was a little bit better, and a couple of comebacks got to like 13, 15, I believe, to almost come back. So it was good to see them show the fight and not just totally give in. We'll see moving on to Milwaukee in the series how Boston responds now playing on the road. And they didn't even have Marcus Smart either in game 2, so I assume he should be back for game 3, considering he was a game time decision for game 2. So that would be big for Boston and their defense, defensive player of the year, and all of that. But now we'll move over to the West with the game that's going on right now at halftime. Suns Mavericks. Suns took game 1 despite Luka dropping 45 points. You just kind of saw the Suns, their balance overall. I mean, Dallas doesn't really have anyone to stop Ayton down low. Booker looks healthy. Chris Paul looked good in game 1. So Bridges. So you just kind of saw their depth come to play. Whereas for Dallas, Luka had 45, but he can't beat Phoenix all by himself. He made it close at the end, but Brunson had 13. So they're going to need him to really step up like he did in the first round, putting up 20 plus, 25 plus a game. Obviously, you can't expect Luka to drop 45 every game, but it seems like he's good for 30 plus at the very least most nights. They did get 19 points from Maxi Kleber off the bench in game 1. He had 5 threes. So they're just going to need these guys, guys like Finney-Smith, Bullock, Brunson, Dinwiddie, Bertans, Kleber. These guys are so inconsistent. So they're just going to need I feel like they just need to kind of get lucky with a bunch of these guys kind of getting hot to have any chance in this series. Korea, what's your take based on what you've seen so far and kind of moving forward?
Yeah, I see game 1 obviously was for the Mavs. It was a tale of two halves. I mean, the first half they just, they were getting ran on by the Suns. Suns were just putting up points. They couldn't defend well. The Mavs could not defend well. And then all of a sudden that halftime speech must have been something special because they tried to make a little bit of a comeback. They made it close, but the Suns did get the win in game 1. Obviously, the Suns played, great team basketball. You mentioned the guys, CP3, Devin Booker, Ayton, Bridges, how deep that lineup goes for the Phoenix Suns. Definitely a reason why they're the number one seed in the West and the best team in the country, just on how deep that they go. But this Mavs team is definitely going to give them a run for their money. I like what the Mavs are doing right now, obviously, with Luka Doncic, putting on masterpiece after masterpiece. Right now, I think Dallas up by 160-59. So I think
58, yeah. Luka has 20. Luka has 24 halves. He's on pace for 45 again.
Yeah, so there you go. Another impressive Luka Doncic.
Brunson has 2, so they're definitely need him to step up.
Yeah, you mentioned the bench and the key role players definitely need to step up. That was the reason why game 1 was pretty lopsided. Just Jalen Brunson not shooting the ball well, along with the rest of the Dallas squad. But Dallas still can make it close right now. I mean, I know Ayton's in foul trouble with 2. Jay Crowder is maybe in his.
He got his third, Ayton in the first half. So yeah.
Oh, he has 3 now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so definitely now Ayton in foul trouble. He has 3. And Dallas, they went on a big run to take the lead without even Luka on the court. So I know the Dallas Mavericks can definitely make this series interesting. A lot of people said if the Dallas Mavericks make it out, then this series will go to 7. And I can see it now. Just the way Dallas plays. They rely on Luka heavy, but, if Jalen Brunson can get hot or, shoot the ball a little more consistently, then, this series can, be a little more interesting, in my opinion. But, yeah, the Suns definitely have all the star power. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, now healthier Devin Booker after his first round exit with that hamstring against the Pelicans. But now he's healthy. He's put on a show like he always does. This series is definitely going to be one of the more slept on series, I think, out of all 4, just because obviously the Suns are just so talented. And obviously a lot of people have, the Suns probably winning about 5 games, but this Dallas team, they have heart in them, and they maybe they can get 1 or 2, but maybe even 2, but maybe 1 back in Dallas to maybe make this a series a little more competitive. We'll see what happens tonight. But yeah, Dallas is definitely not scared of this Phoenix Suns team that just went to the finals. The way Luka's playing, obviously he's going to have to put up almost 50 a night for them to be competitive with this Suns team, but they definitely need their other starting 4 players to, actually contribute a lot more than just a few points in the starting rotation. If the Mavericks can really, get some help in that starting lineup, then I can see the series going to 7. But, Jalen Brunson's 2 right now and his 13 last game, it's not the best help that they really need in this time. So we'll see what the second half brings. But right now, it's a 2-point lead for the Dallas Mavericks. Maybe if they keep that same defense that they had the second half yesterday, Dallas can escape, pretty much steal a win in Phoenix, making a competitive series.
Yeah, I mean, this would be huge if Dallas can steal on the road here. I mean, they have a 2-point lead, and Luke has 24. I think Dinwiddie has 10. Brunson has 2. Dinwiddie has, and so if their role players can kind of catch fire and help out Luke in the second half, and they can steal this game 2 on the road, that would be huge. If they go down 2-0, then obviously game 3 becomes a must-win, obviously, not wanting to go play on 3-0. I still think Suns will win in 5 right now, but if Dallas does win this game tonight, then they could push it to 6, maybe even 7, if their players can kind of heat up the rest of the series. So now we saved the best for last, the best series. But I mean, we knew it was going to be the best series, and it's definitely lived up to the hype. Both the first 2 games coming down to the final set, not even minute, the final seconds, with the Warriors holding on in game 1 and Memphis having a physical, gritty, dirty, whatever you want to call it, game 2 win. But Ja had 47 in game 2. I think he had 30 plus in game 1, I believe. So credit to him. Clay's been not looking like himself in the series. 5 for 19 the other day, including a late turnover when they're down by 3 with like 20 seconds left, I believe. Korea, after watching the first 2 games as a Warriors fan, what's your current confidence level heading back to Golden State? And then I guess what's your prediction if you have to say the rest of the series?
Am I phased? No, I'm not phased. This Memphis team has hype. John Morant, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, all the hype boys. They're the boys, yeah. Well, the Warriors have pretty much the 3 best shooters right now in basketball, I'd say, in my opinion, and Jordan Poole, who's shooting the ball well. Klay Thompson, who's obviously having a little bit of a downfall, but obviously going back to the Bay, he dominates in the Bay. And then Steph Curry, this man shoots the lights out every goddamn night. Am I phased? No. What? I mean, game 1, that was close, but obviously Draymond being ejected in the first half, we still won the game. I'll take that as you will. Second game, Dylan Brooks does this, not the same thing, but early flagrant, he gets ejected. And then, first of all, I'm going to call that a dirty play. That was a dirty play by Brandon Clark. He knows what he was doing. Man was winding up like he was throwing a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
You mean Brooks? You say Clark?
Oh, that was, yeah. I forgot someone. I think whoever elbowed, I'll get into that later. But it was literally a wind-up from Dylan Brooks. The wind-up and then smacked Gary Payton in the face for no reason. I think that's a dirty play. I think Dylan Brooks knows that's a dirty play. And I think Dylan Brooks should own that that's a dirty play. And if anyone thinks it's not a dirty play, then you're wrong. I'm sorry. That's just a dirty play. It looked like he was winding up, and he knew he was obviously going to go to the basket with his left, and he decided to smack him in the face. And now Gary Payton is probably going to be questionable for game 3 with that shoulder injury. But I don't even started with Draymond getting swatted in the eye yesterday.
Yeah, I think that was like Tillman.
Yeah, that was Xavier Tillman. I'm like, they're playing bully ball out there. Like,
Michigan State, they both went.
Yeah, you thought alums, were supposed to respect each other, but I mean, I'm not fazed. I think the Warriors will still pull this out in 7. I had the Warriors winning in 7 because I knew this was going to be one of the series that this was definitely going to be the challenge for them, or just a challenge where I don't know if they could really. Obviously, Memphis has a ton of physicality, and I knew the Warriors were definitely going to have a challenge with that, and they're stepping up now. Obviously, game 2 is a lot more different, a lot more physical with this team. Obviously, Ja mouthing off Steph at the end. I don't give a damn about that. Ja can mouth all he wants. Warriors are still winning at 7. I don't give a damn. But yeah, shout out to John Morant, though. I mean, he brought 47. He had a great performance in game 2. I'll give respect where it's due. Morant was balling.
He had the last 15 points, I think, of game 2.
Yeah, he was. Last 5 minutes, it was just a John Morant show. Steph Curry, tried to compete a little bit, but that late turnover that you mentioned by by Klay Thompson. When we were, I think, down 3 in the last position. That was a killer for us right there. But at the same time, I don't expect those many mistakes like that when we come back to the Bay. Obviously the Bay is a different atmosphere. This is going to be only games, I believe. I think the fourth game in the Chase Center in the playoffs this year, and that we haven't even tapped our full potential yet. And I believe that Klay is going to get back to his shooting ways, and being back in a familiar face will definitely help him with that. Yes, this Grizzlies team is for real, and I knew this Grizzlies team was going to be for real. I knew that as soon as we played them, because I secretly wanted Minnesota to win. I wanted Minnesota to win that first round, so the Warriors have the easier matchup. But in terms of physicality, I knew this was definitely going to be this Grizzlies team. They like to play a little bully ball, get him in your face, hard fouls and stuff like that. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, obviously, it's all about keeping your players safe. So Draymond with that bloody eye, obviously, it's a little, and then the Dylan Brooks foul, that's obviously dirty. I'll call that dirty all day. But Game 3, obviously, now back in the Bay. I'm not going to have any expectation for Game 3, except for Klay's definitely going to be shooting the ball better now back at home. It'll be interesting to see how we do without Gary Payton, obviously one of our key role players off the bench. He was actually in the starting lineup in Game 2 for Jordan Poole. So now it looks like Jordan Poole will probably be back in that starting lineup for Game 3, depending on the health of Gary Payton. And if he was healthy, he'll probably become off the bench anyway, since that is, I think it was his right shoulder that was injured, and that's not his shooting arm. So hopefully he can work through it. But yeah, I'm not fazed. I'm not scared at all. I know this is going to be a very, very energetic series that's going to test us. But at the same time, we've been used to tests before, and the Warriors have never failed, except for 2016. But we're not going to talk about that right now. Yeah, definitely. I knew this was going to be one of the bigger series. I think this series is going to 7. I just don't see it. I don't see it going, further than 7 or less than 7, excuse me, just because of, just how these two teams compete. And you've mentioned it, how these both games 1 and 2 have only come down to the last. It's always gotten under a minute. So that just shows you how competitive this series is going to be. It's really going to test the limits of both players, both teams. But yeah, definitely a great series to watch right now. Pretty much the best series out of all 4, in my opinion. Game 3 is definitely going to be a big test for this Warriors team. Can they, bounce back after the close loss on the road in game? But obviously, I mean, the fact that the Warriors only lost by 5 in a bad shooting night for Klay, I'll take that. I mean, you take back 2 threes, and that's a win for the Warriors right there. So, very competitive in a very electric atmosphere in Memphis. They have the crowd roaring, but now they're coming to the Bay. And so, being back home is definitely going to be more of an advantage for this Warriors team. Now splitting the series, I think a split is definitely a win for this Warriors team to take one on not even just the first, but game 1 on the road. Obviously, game 2 was a close loss, but game 1 on the road was definitely a big win for this Warriors team. And now they're heading back with a lot of momentum. And I think if they get back to the real shooting ways, I think they could be up 3-1 potentially, heading back into Game 5 back in Memphis. But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, you already know the Warriors are going to be electric, especially after how physical the first 2 games in Memphis were. Do you think the NBA is going to suspend Dylan Brooks, or do you think they're just going to fine him?
I think it's going to be a petty fine. I don't think it's going to be anything too egregious. If it was a game, I think it would probably be either one game or probably maybe a $20,000 or maybe $10,000 fine at the most. I don't think it was something where. Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Obviously, it was a very, very, it was a hard foul. Obviously, it was dirty, but it wasn't, where he was picking him up, doing some WWE moves with him. He wasn't doing anything like that. So I think maybe one game or, a petty fine is definitely going to be good enough for Dylan Brooks, teach him a good lesson to not have any dirty plays again. So, but if they do suspend him for one game, that'd definitely be a huge game. three for that Warriors team. Not having Dylan Brooks on that court, really kind of shifted that Memphis Grizzlies team and to really rely on John Moran a lot more. Obviously, he dropped 47, but without Dylan Brooks in the starting lineup, a key role player for that Grizzlies team, it's kind of seemed like it was just John Moran and occasionally Jaren Jackson would hit a three, have a big shot at a big moment. Kyle Anderson was also having some big shots and some big moments as well for that team. So they have to rely on pretty much anybody else except for. But I mean, obviously as well, they went deep into their bench. Taylor Jenkins went deep into his bench in Game 2 for for Dylan Brooks' absence for that whole game. So
yeah, I think Zaire Williams like the second leading scorer with 14, I believe, in Game 2. So definitely went deep in their bench with Brooks thrown out.
Yeah, it looks like this series will definitely go to 7 and I think if Dylan Brooks is suspended one game, I think it'll definitely be a bigger factor than a lot of people think, just because of how Dylan Brooks really plays great defense against these shooters like Steph Curry. Like you see him always in the lane, and just playing really, especially even like just inbounding the ball. He's just right on him. So no, Dylan Brooks will definitely be a huge disadvantage for this Grizzlies team, and the Warriors definitely need to capitalize on that if that happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll see how these series all play out in this, couple days, week, and so that was all I had planned. Was there anything else you want to talk about today?
Just one quick note. I don't know if you're keep a note of it, but Seattle for all my soccer fans out there or football for anyone who really knows the sport. The Sounders right now are playing against Pumas in the CONCACAF Champions League. If Seattle wins, this will be the first time an MLS team wins. So, it'd be great to, obviously support, love, go Seattle Sounders. It's definitely a huge story right now for the city of Seattle. But other than that, no, we will see you guys Friday. We'll definitely, catch you up some more NBA playoff stuff. We'll take a look at what's going on in the MLB as well for our MLB fans. We know it's been a while since we talked MLB. We'll give you a little bit of an update maybe in the standings on what's going on and after another week of the MLB. But, all right, do you have any last words?
No, yeah. Go Sounders, that's all I'll say. And we'll see you all on Friday.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Friday. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode. As you guys know, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on IG, just try and support. We're just, one about to be former college student and then one already former college student. We're just trying our hardest out here. So we appreciate all you guys commenting, liking, subscribing, being active with our social media. And we will see you guys on Friday for our next episode. Have a good day, y'all.